Hello, everybody, and welcome to Living One. My name is Olivia, and I'm so glad to welcome all of you today. For those of you who don't know, Living One is Carulos's monthly webinar series, now in its 6th year. With guest speakers from around the world, we listen in to how people are bringing their ethics, minds, and lives into alignment with nature for earth and animal liberation and revitalization. Our second series of 2025, Encounters with the Unseen, delves into the critical, ethical, and ontological dimensions emerging from non-duality and our existence in a world of persons, only some of whom are human. Over the course of this series, 6 speakers discuss their experiences with and exploration of the less than obvious, often non-material worlds. Journey with us into unseen territories and discover how this deeper understanding can expand and restore wholeness and connection with the vitality of our living cosmos. Our guest today is Brother Phap Dung. Phap Dung, who also goes by Brother Dharma Embrace, is a monastic Dharma teacher at Deer Park Monastery in Escondido, California. Ordained by Vietnamese Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh in 1998, he was abbot of Deer Park Monastery from 2001 to 2010. He was born in Vietnam in 1969 and came to the United States when he was 9 years old. He received a professional Bachelor of Arts in Architecture from the University of Southern California and worked as an architect and designer for 4 years before becoming a monk. He helped to establish Deer Park Monastery and other U.S. centers, creating meditation programs and retreats for children, teens, families, and young adults, as well as planning its halls and infrastructures. He has led mindfulness retreats in North and South America, China, Hong Kong, India, Bhutan, and Germany. Brother Phap Dung represented Plum Village Monastery at the pivotal COP21 climate conference in Paris. Throughout the year, he is involved in supporting Wake Up Schools, bringing mindfulness practice and well-being into education, Wake Up Hubs, creating sustainable, ethical, healthy, alternative, non-sectarian urban practice centers for young people, and Wake Up retreats around the world. In the US, Brother Phap Dung has offered mindfulness workshops for organizations such as Google, Facebook, Salesforce, and the World Bank. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that we are all currently on various different Indigenous lands. I am currently on the ancestral homelands of the Council of the Three Fires, which includes the Ojibwa, Ottawa, and Potawatomi. This land exists also as a place of trade with other Indigenous communities, including the Ho-Chunk, Miami, Menominee, Sauk, and Meskwaki. The Carulo Center for Nonviolence is located on the homelands of the grizzly bear, takelma, daku-betite, coyote, coho salmon, golden eagle, and gray wolf. Finally, we ask that all of us participate with full respect and attention to each other in the spirit of peace and wisdom that Living One seeks to foster. So without further ado, we welcome Brother Phap Dung.
Thank you, Olivia. Thank you, everyone. Nice to be with you. And for those who are going to listen to this after, nice to be with you in the future.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us today. Do you want to start us off with a guided meditation?
Yeah, I think, for those who are present in this now, we can close our eyes and just take a breath. Come back to our body. Although there's a screen in front of us, we, with our eyes closed, we can see beyond that. See each other on different parts of this planet, on this continent. We share the same breath. We also touch the timeless, the past, the future. Those who have come before us, those who will continue us. Breathing in, I'm aware of my body. Breathing out, I'm aware of my community, past, present, and future. where planet Earth beneath me, and where no matter where I'm at, I'm sitting with gravity pulling me, holding me in Mother Earth, out. I am Mother Earth. Thank you for your practice. So center ourselves a little bit, situate ourselves on this planet. We can open our eyes. Now we have a new world now in this 21st century, the digital world, the virtual world. So it's nice to recognize how precious it is to have a body, a physical body, and a planet and gravity affecting us. As we move towards the 21st and 22nd century, people will be that will become even more precious as we become more, digital and enhanced, and with implants and screens, and that is aware of that coming. We are aware how precious it is to be embodied and to also to be on the planet as a living conscious being. So that's intention to raise that awareness, and that will become very precious as we move forward. Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to share that I was kind of, yeah, it brought a smile to my face when Gay wrote an invitation and the for me to join you all, your community. And I like the theme of the encountering the unseen. Yeah, it's interesting in the Buddhist practice, the tradition. It's not just the seen, but also the unheard, the unsmell. So it's about our senses, untaste, untouch our body as well. And there's another one, the mind in the Buddhist practice is also a sense door. It's just like the eye, and it's not any more prominent. The eye, the nose, the ears, the tongue, the body, and the mind. The mind is the also a sense door, and the mind is the sense organ, and the sense object is our thoughts. Which is when I learned that it's amazing to see that our minds and what we linger on and what we think we know is also a limitation. And so, like, if we limit ourselves to only, to what is seen, is such a limitation. And so the unseen is also being careful. And then there's also the unknowable, which is really hard for us to accept. Meaning that we don't know everything and you can't be too sure. And that's what it means. It's not like, we don't continue to strive to understand our world and to discover and explore out of our curiosity, but that we also have to be very careful so that whatever we see, whatever we think we know becomes an obstacle to actually. So in Buddhism, they call you, if you see the Buddha, it is a wrong perception. Or Zen, they say, if you see the Buddha, kill him, or cut his head off. That is to say, be careful what you see. So if you think you know it, then you're in big trouble. So that is it's so a good medicine for our times, our scientific, rational, evidence-based. So I think what it means is that there is a world that we can touch, we can feel, and it's probably undescribable to those who have not touched it. So like Zen masters, they don't need to talk to each other. They kind of get it, you know. And if you come and ask people to explain it to you, they'll probably tell you to continue to sweep the leaves, or so that's basically the tradition that the as you try to like grasp it, to see it, to find evidence, then that thing right there will blind you because it's right there in front of you. So this is what's beautiful. What and I love science. I love the search. I love the method, right? The to trigger and to try to figure out what happened and why. But I think with the becoming a monk and realizing the this tradition of the monastic training of sitting still, uh, what happens when we have a knowing, a seeing, an insight, an experience, it actually liberates us. We feel in ourselves that that wow, I know why I'm so angry. So that knowing right there is like, it's like you don't go around like carrying around and making a story out of it, but it liberates you and your anger dissipates, and you no longer see your father the same way again, and you begin to love and care for him. So in the Buddhist training, the knowing liberates us. And then you don't go around carrying that knowing and proving and trying to convince everyone about it, but it's done its job. It helped you, it healed you, it transformed the way you look at the world, the way you look at your relationship with your father. So that's when you see something in Buddhism, it's called insight, and it liberates, it frees us, it heals us, and it that right there is the kind of it's like the axis mundi of Buddhism. So all the practice, all the knowing, all the theories, all Buddhism has developed theories as well, and descriptions of the world and reality. But the whole purpose of it is to liberate us from our notions. That's what nirvana means. Nirvana is the ending of our notions. You see, so it's not just ending our seeing, meaning like be careful what you see. Don't be deluded by it. You see your father, and then you have an idea about your father, so you limit that experience. So we walk around like that, as it served this function biologically as human beings, to have memory, to know like, oh, that's not a good person, this is a but those things can really cause us those perception, you call it, can that's the root of delusion. We have perceptions of everything, colors, rainbows, roses. Someone gives you a cake, you feel happy, gives you a card. So we work like that in the human realm, but that's not only it. So we move around there. You don't see underneath. There are things moving us and creating that they're like karmic energies from our ancestor and so on, making us act and behave in certain ways that we don't even know. I think now the term is a hidden bias, right? And then we all have that, and we've been raised, our upbringing, and so those things move us and how we see things. You think you go to the store and you actually choose the item you buy? No, it already chose you a long time ago. So those are the forces. But in Buddhism, when you have insight, when you do see something, the insight, it liberates us and no longer cling to it. And what is beautiful is the image of a match, a wooden match. You light the match, and it's on fire, and it's like burning, and you can see in the room what things are and what it is. You have this kind of like, oh, okay, I get it. I know where I am. And as the match burns itself and it extinguishes, then do you need the match anymore? You've seen it, you see, so you don't go around kind of clinging to matches and looking for matchbox, but it's done its purpose. You've seen something, and no longer will you behave like that, or you no longer feel that anger anymore? So that's what it means to be liberated, to have that insight, and that helps us, begin to see the world, to see others differently, even our enemy or people we hate. That's the hard part right now, as if you're living in the North American continent. It's so, like, right now, everything is trying to get you to see that there is an enemy, because it's very fearful. And right now we are very easily tempted to 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 how do you say, to blame it all on one person. It's very easy right now to blame it on a group of people, but actually we are co-responsible. We live in this culture that produce, these people, or certain kinds of people. So we have to. That's the part about contemplation and meditation. It slows us down so we're not too easily to point fingers. Because we'll do the same thing, and then finger pointing leads to fists, and then fist leads to escalates. So this is the danger, and I think we can learn that with. I've been reflecting a lot about my teacher and what he did during the war in Vietnam, and we definitely need to do something and say something and rise up. But how to do it with the spirit of interbeing and seeing the others as ourselves. And so this is what we have to be careful with, the word unseen, meaning don't be too quick to jump, reactive, emotional. And so what you think you see can really create a lot of disturbance. And when you move there, you don't have that clarity, and you don't move from a place of compassion, of tolerance, of reconciliation and embracing, and but calling it out as it is, though, not being deluded by other people's delusions. So you don't get sucked into the ignorance, but you have to call it out. And that, for me, is also pointing out what is not seen. That's many ways to, interpret that word in the deep way, or it could be just meaning, just be careful with our eyes and our perception and our labeling and our words, which is happening a lot right now with the news in the United States. I'll just end it there, just to say, there's a good topic for the present moment. What is happening to this country and the world too, for that matter? So I think, the Vietnam War has not ended. What happened in Vietnam, the origin of my teacher and myself, I'm a refugee. Why I am in this country not by choice, but I know that there's work to be done to alleviate, all these destruction that's happening, continuing to happen.
Okay, well, thank you for that really beautiful and apt introduction. I think you spoke so well to the theme of this series. And you mentioned a couple times the Buddhist tradition and your teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh. And for anyone unfamiliar who might be watching or here today, do you mind describing a little bit more about that? What is Zen Buddhism in the tradition of Plum Village, Thich Nhat Hanh, and your experience as a monastic teacher?
Yeah, our teacher was a young monk during the war in Vietnam. So he grew up in that history, from the French occupation all the way through the Japanese to the American occupation. So this is something that, and our teacher in the 60s, went to the West, to America, to Europe, to call for peace. So he was starting a movement of in Vietnam to, have Buddhism as the guiding light for social development and action. So we call engage Buddhism, like a Buddhism that enters the world and not stay at the temple, So our tradition is has its roots in that movement to actively engage with peace, ending war, injustice to the people, and so on. So we call that engaged Buddhism. And he traveled to the West, and he didn't was not allowed to come back to Vietnam. Was threatened and so on. So he took exile. He was exiled from coming back to his homeland. So he stayed in the West, and he took refuge in France and reformed Plum Village. He established Plum Village first as a refugee relief for all these Vietnamese families who were escaping by boat. So it started off as a shelter for refugee families to touch, not lose their culture. But as you know, the in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, meditation, mindfulness, and there was like that movement from the 70s, people going to Thailand, to Sri Lanka, to India to learn meditation. So they came back, and so there was this proliferation of mindfulness. And so our teacher is from that history, from war and from the interest in meditation and mindfulness. So now we call it applied Buddhism. And so Plum Village has become its own tradition in the sense that we have monastics, nuns, and there's a particular try to renew actually Buddhism and renew monasticism. So it's very linked with lay person as well as monastics connected to create and engage in social change, entering in the economic area, going to businesses, education, climate issues. So not just politics. That is like the origin of it, to end war. That was the origin of our tradition. And then Thai moved on to address the climate crisis, the social injustice, the racial injustice, the people of color retreat, and so on. And it's evolving. Now we're, inclusive of other things that are the kind of different forms of suffering of modern society, mental health. So actually, Buddhism is not like just praying and devotional Buddhism, but a Buddhism based on practice and insight. So these kind of trainings help people find relief from their own practice, and not like a devotional waiting for a divine force like the Buddha, or like waiting even for someone else to help us. But through our training, we can find healing, transformation, and liberation. So this is what it means. Zen, it just means meditation, or cultivation is actually more accurate. Thiền is in Vietnamese, Zen is in Japanese, and Chan is the same word. It comes from translating the Sanskrit word jhana. It's an Indian word jhana. So that comes from, so that's all the translation of that. Now, we have to be very careful because the word Zen now has been kind of, how they call it, commoditized and kind of like, kind of like facelift in the West. And it's like, it looks beautiful and Zen, right? But that's like we have to be very careful. It becomes too idealistic and formalistic. So those things we have to be very careful. That's what we're trying to update, so that we don't become like formalistic practitioner, but like not really interacting and engaging the world and the suffering in the world. So we have to be very careful. Don't we become, meditation becomes more romanticized, like, nice shawl, nice incense. It becomes like this, I don't know, culturally beautiful practice. But actually, Buddhism, its origin is to engage where there is suffering, to go where there is suffering and help relieve it. So it's not just staying serene, peaceful in this like, nice meditation spa area. So that's what we have to be very careful with as Buddhism and meditation gets, more, how do you call it, more adapted into modern society.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And that brings us really, I mean, nicely to something you've already touched on, interbeing. And interbeing is a core principle of Buddhism. Do you want to describe that for us? What is interbeing? Why is it so foundational? How can we practice the experience of interbeing?
Yeah, it's a very a beautiful word that I kind of like, kind of you collage it together. Because there's a lot of talk about being and non-being in Buddhism, and the fundamental insight that the Buddha had was the interconnectedness and the
Mm,
co-arising of all things. When the conditions are sufficient, things arise, and when it's no longer sufficient. So that is the kind of like his insight, the Buddha's insight into how things work, and it can
mm,
be summarized in the just a real short phrase: "This is because that is." Isn't that amazing? That is the whole Buddhist genesis of how the world came about. It's not like who created or where was the first atom that blew up and so on. It's actually this is because that is. So it's not an open-ended formula. There's no. It's not finite. You see, this
mm,
is it's describing a process and a relationship. You see it.
mm.
This is
Yeah.
because that is. It doesn't tell you this is it and only it. This must be the beginning and this is the end, right? So it's a very interesting term because it helps you escape from the dualistic ways that we are used to, beginning and solid, spirit, right?
Yeah.
And so interbeing helps us connect. When you see leaf, we're not fooled by it. It's like, oh, but we also see it as a tree because it's also nourishing the tree. When you see it fall down, it becomes the earth, and you can see. So if you're a practitioner, if you're a poet, you can see beyond the form. So you see what is unseen. So that is so interbeing helps us see the interconnectedness of things, all
Mm,
conditions. Like I always tell children, like try to find me something that can exist by itself, that can be by itself. We're so used to saying, "Oh, there's an apple," and we're so just caught by that apple because we want to eat it. But actually, if you eat it and you're a meditator and you're careful, you will see the unseen. You'll see that there's a cloud in the apple.
mm,
And we do this with children, and they go around the whole retreat afterwards, like telling you the unseen. It's like, mom, you're dad, and they play around with it, once they it's so cute, they eat their spaghetti and it's like, this is a cloud, no, this is a worm, of
mhm,
course they're just having fun, but it's a way of looking so that we're not immediately in front of us fooled by it. So interbeing is seeing that your father is you,
mm,
and this part, people have a hard time with, your mother is you, your ancestor is you, so you as an individual cannot be without them.
mm,
So everything that is the color, the non-element, the a equals a, because a equals does not equal a, therefore it is really a. That is the formula in Indian logic. A does not equal A, therefore it is really A. You see that? That math doesn't work in but actually it's starting to work in quantum fields, quantum physics. They have that language as well.
mm.
So I love Indian logic. A does not equal A, therefore it is A. Who teaches that in math? It's like but some of the elite physicists speak like that. So Roger, anyway, there is some
Penrose, is it Roger Penrose?
Penrose. Yeah, I love how he talks. He speaks the language of Zen. So these are some of the modern, still living physicists. I mean, we had Bohm, of course, before. So interbeing is Thai's very skillful way to help us be careful. And it's perfect for the theme here, you know,
Yeah.
the connected of all things.
Yeah.
This is true. You know, when you eat and you drink a cup of water, you can really know that it comes from the cosmos, from the stars, right? This is and it's not a concept. It's something that you have to really look into, experience. Like now, my hands, I can really feel my grandma because I'm starting to get to an age where my skin, I can pull it up and it stays up, you know. It's I used to do that with my grandma's hand when I was little. And I was like, how does your skin do that, grandma? You know, you pull it up and it just stays there like a wall on her the on her palm, you know, at the back of her palm. And now my hand does the same thing, you know, it's like you hold it and it just stays. And in a way, you know, that helped me touch her, you know, not physically, but all the things I can feel her, you know, I can feel her happiness because I'm happy. And so whether you call that fantasizing, imaginary, it's depending on the depth of your experience. And that's what makes us humans so precious. We have this ability with this cognition to actually transcend what is like just this world, right? So you know, like a image our teacher used to share is a wave has all the waves on the ocean. All those waves are water, but we go around saying, "Oh, you're higher. Oh, you're nicer. Oh, you are don't look like me," and so on. Oh, you're not me, you know. But in the end, if you can touch that, we're all water. We come from the same vibration source. That can help us relieve all the hate, resentment that we might have, all the fear that we might have. And, you know, look closely with your relatives and your family. Don't even go beyond, you know, to Washington, D.C. Just look at your family and see that there is like, oh man, I got a lot of work to do. You know, so that the practice has helped me heal that and to look at it with different eyes, not just the eyes of my wrong perception.
Beautiful. And you mentioned quantum physics, the quantum realm, and that is, of course, an intersection that many point out between Buddhism and science broadly. And you mentioned earlier your appreciation for the scientific method. And one defining difference of these two things is that Buddhism is really an experience-based something that's experience-based, and science relies more on the collective validation. Could you talk a little bit about this difference while there is so much intersection?
Yeah, you know, for me, I love science. I went to math science kind of like high school, junior high. You know, I don't know, my teachers kept pushing me towards. So I love technology. I love science. I love discovering things. And Thai is we have given many science retreat where scientists and practitioners come together, and many practitioners who are scientists. So this is very beautiful, kind of emerging. And what I love about this is that our teacher mentioned it one time in his Dharma talk that we both seek to understand our world. Oh, man, I was like, yes. A scientist and a practitioner seeks to understand things to really, and that's beautiful, you know, and both use, so we don't want to like, you know, make a black and white separation where one is like internal inward experience. No, scientists also have that. If they're truly, and the ones who actually have insight and have discoveries, they have done inner work. They have held and contemplated their thesis, their, you know, whatever premise they're trying to discover. They've held it probably 24 hours and for years. And then there's a whole moment when they have a aha. Oh, how come I didn't see that? So, I mean, meditators do the same thing, you know. We're like, why am I so resentful? God, or why am I keep doing this habitual thing? And you, in meditation, the microscope is called a koan. You kind of hold it. So don't go writing left column, right column, and try to find things. But you actually, in Buddhism, you just don't go looking for it. Just hold it, and we call it like sitting on the egg in the monastery. Just sit on it still. Stop getting up and down. Just sit still, and the egg will hatch. Right. So we make fun of each other. We know when some of us are like hatching something or incubating something. So it's suffering, you know. And so we try to figure out why does this keep happening. So, and I just want to mention also that the evidence is not just on the side of science, you know, it's also on the practitioner. We need evidence. When we feel lighter and happier, you better know how to record that, you know. And if you're a good practitioner, you would know how to make and generate happiness because you've done your method and you know how to do it. Okay, this situation is not good right now, this conversation, so I remove myself. So that's evidence. You know that this is not helpful, and then you know this is you need to come back. So it is based on a kind of direct engagement with what is happening. So we have to be very careful to say, you know, because, you know, experience is an evidence as well. So I hear a lot where we make that separation between, you know, the inward looking and the scientists using instrument to look at objective things. And I think some scientists have broken that as well. So you know, and meditators as well, we have to look at our world and not just, you know, sit there and close our eyes. We actually have to engage with the, you know, some of the injustice and some of the destruction that is happening and find ways to skillfully affect that experiment. And say, hey, you guys, that experiment doesn't work. You know, it's not going to make you more secure and more safe. It's just going to create more enemies. There's evidence for that. So anyway, I'm trying to merge a little bit that language so we don't make that separation. I see myself like a scientist when I walk, when I look at the sky, and, you know, I touch a deeper thing. And that's what scientists hopefully will also do, right? That they will look beyond, and many things that we're still discovering, you know, like this whole network of things and trees talking, that animals like communicate in very sophisticated ways, ants, or even our body. It's just within, I don't know, within the decade, I think, they discovered this whole network of like a network that we can sense. I bet you they're going to find out that that's kind of linked with chi and the Asian system, because that has an electric magnetic field to it. Anyway, it's great. So there's a lot. And then what are they discovering with the Webb telescope? Wow. We got to revise a little bit some of our theories. Anyway, I just love science. Because it's also very open to have contradictory data, you know. And in meditation, that's another way to say, don't be too sure, be open.
Well, I love what you said about just understanding, the goal being to understand reality in both practices. I think that's so that's a great way to think about it. And I know with Buddhism, the concepts and the terms really are not meant to describe reality as much as they're there to help individuals kind of discover on their own. And with quantum physics, you spoke about, like, we have the two worlds, the explicit and the material, the implicit and the invisible. And with Buddhism, the historic and the ultimate dimensions. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the relationship between these dimensions in the role of mindfulness and meditation.
Yeah, we call it dimensions, or we can say kind of like truths, like the relative truth and the ultimate truth.
Yeah.
So like in science now, there's quite a distinction between the macro and the micro, the classical physics and the quantum physics, right? And so this is clearly so they all function, and they have their own truth, and they operate. When a ball falls, it falls. It's not just empty of space, right? And so we go lower into microscopic and that quantum level, and then there's energy, right? And then there is like a hard to know if it's a wave or a particle, and then we affect it. Those reality, we don't really experience it at a macro, because we're so our senses biologically has done its purpose, and we're so dependent on it that it's very hard for us to touch that. I don't know if you know what I mean. It's like for survival, we need to like just guess, and like there's this a way, and that helped us a lot.
Yeah.
So now we it's hard for us to believe these other things that we and our family, our parents, what is happening to the planet. It's hard for us to gather that, because it's not really at our door. I don't know if that makes sense. And I think that's what's helpful with meditation. We can actually touch that. So for me, we can touch the ultimate level if we can really live in the historical in a particular way. If we're mindful and we turn on the faucet, and we know this water is precious, so, you treat the water very differently, very sacred. You don't see it as just like water that the municipal district pumped to me, but it's like from the mountain, from the universe. So you turn it a particular way. You don't just and leave it running. If you're in the desert in Africa, you also have a different experience of water. So you become more aware of the realm that is beyond the historical. Does that make sense? But the immediate. So when we live more mindful, we can touch the ultimate in the historical. When you eat a broccoli and you smile because you know that this is a gift of the universe, of the sun, the farmers, you're filled with gratitude. So you eat in a spiritual way, because you're not just touching like broccoli. Oh, it has a lot of this, I drink orange juice because there's a lot of vitamin C. Things are like broken down materialistically now. People go out to enjoy the sun, not to enjoy the sun, but so they can get vitamin something. They go, everything now is like broken down scientifically to serve the human. It's so human centric. It's like just enjoy the sun, it's like be out there and just be alive. Why break it down and they time it, oh, I only need 5 minutes. This is crazy. What is they're really not enjoying the sun. They're turning that experience into a commodity, and I only need 5 of it. Okay, I'm done. I go in. I have no idea if they even enjoyed it. But you can see the limitation if we're too dogmatic, whether it's in scientific field or the spiritual Buddhist field. You become dogmatic, meaning you are caught by the method and the materialization of things. You eat something and you got to know what is the benefit. Does it have vitamin this, vitamin that? And I don't know if you really enjoy it. I guess some people can enjoy it. They feel like they're getting all that chemical that they need. I guess that's a new way of enjoying it. But I've seen it. I've seen it. This happen with our young adults retreat, or generally people are right now so concerned with like it's very human centric, anthropocentric. Yeah. And I think that's a limitation for us to touch our other self, like the planet, right? The ecosystem, the other animals, and the plants, the minerals, the sky. So this is the ultimate, right? When you live and you're mindful of these other worlds, these other things that make us the non-human element, then you would never pour, toxin into the river. You would never, do something because you know that they are you.
Absolutely. Yeah, and from that perspective, with the two dimensions, the truths, I know Buddhism encourages a deeper understanding of life and death and what happens when we die. And Tai speaks about how a cloud never dies, and our thoughts and speech and our actions as our legacy. Can you talk about this a little bit, and how, are our thoughts and actions a continuation in the historic dimension, while consciousness really is more a continuation in the ultimate dimension? What would Buddhism say on this? What are your views on this?
Yeah, in terms of life and death, we've been educated, we've been, uh, given that concept of like when we're born, we we have a birthday and then we have a death day and so on. So it's like it's so embedded in our culture, right? And that's so that brings a lot of fear. That's like the ultimate fear, that you're gonna die. You're gonna be in the earth in this way, right? So our practice is to look more deeply into that. That the ones who my father passed about 3 years ago, and so I live my life now like for him and as him. So that's my practice. When I fix things, when I repair stuff, when I try to not throw something away, but try to make it stretch by fixing it. These things, he penetrated me, So he's not physically, in me, but of course in my genes myself. But spiritually, I live with that, and in a way, with him. So when we have people who passed away, that we can feel that. We can call that memory, but it's also energetic, and there's many serendipitous thing too, with my grandma, with my dad who passed away, and we can do that with people, our loved ones as well. And so, sometimes you have a thought of your mom or your sister, and serendipity happens. So energetically, things like that have happened when you're open to it. Okay, so this is a way of touching the non-death, the non-birth. Okay, so you can touch people as energy, and this helps us, and we have to contemplate on this, because one day you will be 80, 90 if you're lucky, and how you live, will determine how you die. If you live meaningfully, if you live selflessly, if you live for the benefit of others, and you live blamelessly, and you try to resolve any conflict within you with others, and you live kind of like you don't have resentment, you have these knots, all these notions about things in the world and death and so on. And that's nirvana, right? Touching nirvana is like these notions no longer are on fire in you. Nirvana means the extinction of the fire, the flame. The image in nirvana, they use the word, that word, and it comes from describing a fire, and the ash that makes the fire no longer can be relit. Some you go camping and you have the ash, and then from overnight, and you flip around, you can find a thing, you can make a fire again because of like some of the charcoal is still there. Nirvana is describing that there's no more charcoal, nothing in that fire that you can rekindle. So it's called the cooling of the flame. Nirvana is like when your heart is cooled down and you no longer have this thing, whether that's hatred, anger, ignorance, fear, or even desire, attachment, craving. So all these are considered like fire, right? And so when those things cool down, you have no more of that fear. It's beautiful, a way to go. You know, when you die, you realize, actually, I did my best. So you don't have a fear of death because you live your life wholeheartedly, right? And I've met people like that at their deathbed, you know, and all their relatives come and they're crying and they're like trying to like pull them back, and they're like, "See you." Of course, you know, you can feel that energy, the peace in them. And so this is a kind of the death and birth are notions. But energetically, as you know, like, you know, we're a whole continuous kind of manifestation of the animal kingdom. And, you know, our civilization, our culture, they continue to create to the present moment, right? So how you want to live the world and affect and leave your imprint in the world. Some people live really, you know, yeah, depending on, so this karmic, that's called karma. It's the things, the imprint you leave into the world through your action, your speech, and through your thinking, right? People leave books. You know, you get certain age, like, you know, probably not you now, but like you get to an age, you want to leave a legacy. You know, you want to leave a book, you want to plant a tree, you want to, like, you know, start teaching young. So it's like this desire for us to continue.
Yeah.
And that is the nature, the force of life, right? Like plants have it, animals, anything that has life force, even rocks. So the boulders and so on. Anyways, I hope I don't know if I answered or like covered what you wanted, but that's what's coming up.
Absolutely. No, that was great. And I'll just ask you one more thing before we open it up for questions from everybody here today. You spoke in the beginning today about how we have to be careful not to kind of co-opt and change the word Zen and various other practices and teachings from this tradition. And I wonder if you can talk a little bit about how we can move from a knowing to more of a belief with practicing in this tradition. How might non-Buddhists or people just starting out here engage in the teachings and the practices specifically from that perspective that you were mentioning, to really like honor where it came from and not so much this very westernized version of Buddhism?
Yeah, actually, that's been my contemplation for like since our teacher passed away, because, you know, I know his mission was to renew Buddhism, but also to establish a kind of Buddhism and then keep its authenticity. His whole life was in his work of renew Buddhism is to remove all the weeds that came back into Buddhism, like different ideas, devotional, and Buddha as a god, Buddha as a, you know, something to worship, and many other concepts. And the you know, about suffering as like the whole premise of Buddhism is like that's just one aspect. So his whole life was to like reframe the misunderstanding about Buddhism. So I think for now, as we westernize, my contemplation is what are some caution as we Americanize Buddhism. Wow, it's just a beautiful thing to look at. I'm a monk, you know. I came from Vietnam on a boat. I grew up in the West. I was an architect, so I kind of like, you know, I could have done the whole American dream, you know, house with two garage, you know. But I actually kind of you know, dropped it and then, you know, continue my refugee of my family. My dad escaped China, so it's been really in my whole it's in my whole family that and so now actually this moment is very precious. Right now everyone is a lot of suffering in the Middle East, in Ukraine, in America, and but I think it is it's a really good kind of mud. It's challenging people, and for me, American Buddhism, I think we have to be very careful that because the last maybe 40 years since the 80s, mindfulness meditation has become quite popular to the point. I think the apex was when the word was invented called mindfulness. That was the height of the limit of that. Where it became commoditized, package, money making. What is it? Those apps now, mindfulness app. Oh my god, I can't believe how much people charge for that. And so you can see it's starting to become like what yoga has in some areas have become. Like it's so divorced from the spiritual quest, and also the engagement to help the world. And so this three things I kind of like point out to help Buddhism not become appropriated. One is community. Like this gotta be, it's not an individualistic practice where you go to meditation like a gym. You do this thing and then you live your life differently. It's gotta be with a sangha, with the whole community. So it's right now it's becoming individualized and like a therapy thing. You do this. That's why it hits its limit. All these articles and criticism how mindfulness and meditation doesn't really help everyone is like no kidding, because people are seeing it as an individual self-centered practice, but actually it should be engaged with the community. And it's always the mindfulness practice, meditation has always been around a temple, a community, and there's interaction, right? And this is, of course, now with modernization, that community could look differently. The other is the service. So the whole so it doesn't become to just self-serve you, but it's to serve others. So that is Buddhism. Buddhism isn't there just like this. The first thing the Buddha did was go out and spread and help his friend and tell his friends to go and help others relieve suffering. So that element is not there. You just practice meditation so that you can feel comfortable with your lifestyle and the bubble that you live in. That is not Buddhism. So service, community, and the third one is the ethical training, the 5 mindfulness training, the 14 mindfulness training, the precept. So the freedom that's happening in America, if meditation and mindfulness is only to serve that kind of freedom, business people, military people, they're practicing mindfulness, but to kind of like support what they're doing to help them free and feel good and then sleep well, to do the unethical thing that they're doing, that is not Buddhism. You're making a lot of money and you're meditating, yeah, it looks good, but that's not Buddhism. You treat your employee well, but you're still exploiting them in unseen ways. That is not Buddhism. So you have to be very careful of it has to call out and look at your whole life. That's the Eightfold Path. That has right livelihood. That means, how are you living your life outside of the cushion, outside of the meditation parlor or the retreats? You go home, how do you speak to your wife, your husband? How do you speak to your children, your parents, your partner, your friends, your employee, your boss? And are you engaging those who are less fortunate, where there's suffering? Or are you just living in your walled up community and you have an altar, but you don't know what's on the other side of the wall? And so this is, for me, very crucial as we move forward. It's great. We're just the beginning, I would say, from the 50 with Suzuki, and then all this exploration of the East, and it became very romanticized. Now it's become very commoditized. It's like meditation and mindfulness is big bucks. That's what I hear with the apps. People are convincing us to charge for our Plum Village apps, and we're like, no, absolutely not. Everything. We have incense made of sage here. We make our own incense at Deer Park. And people come up and try to get us to sell the incense. I was like, no, we're not selling this sage. It's like sacred. We just can't sell everything, just because people want it. It's like everything is to sell and to buy and make some money out of it. I was like, no, we're not going to do that. Of course, we have retreats. We have people come and they pay. I don't want to be like totally, how do you call it, romanticized that, there's no place for money and so on. Like we sell our books. People criticize, how come you sell the Dharma, the books? So we see that going into books that has a price, and it can go into, what do you call it? Starbucks. Is that Starbucks? Is that a book? No, that's not a book place. Barnes and Noble. I don't know any bookstores still out there, but anyway, it's a skillful means, right? And so people actually, when they pay for coming a retreat, it makes them commit, and it makes them like actually plan and really go there. And so there's some skillful means on how to deal with that. So I don't want to like totally take down the system. But we have to be very careful so it doesn't pull us away and lose why we're doing all of this.
Yeah.
All right, sorry, that was a long round. I don't know if covered.
Great, it was perfect. And I'm learning so much.
Hi, dear brother. I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here. I don't know if I have any questions. Maybe something will pop up, but I just wanted to say thank you so much. This is a gift. Your time and this space is a gift. So just know that we are with you, and we are with the tradition, and we are with the practices, and we do the best we can. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Diksha. All right, unless anyone else would like to share anything, take care. All right. Well, then in that case, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Brother Phapdong, so much for being here and for joining us today and sharing everything. Such incredible wisdom. I've learned so much. I know everyone joining us after the fact and today will learn so much from your time today. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here. For everyone joining us online, our next speaker will be just 2 days from today, on Friday, June 13th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. We will welcome Dr. Stephanie Kaza, a longtime practitioner of Soto Zen Buddhism. Dr. Kaza writes and lectures widely on topics of Buddhism and ecology, and currently works on climate issues in Portland, Oregon. If you enjoy Living One and feel called to support Kurulos, Living One, and all of our sanctuary residents, please consider donating at the link on our website, kurulos.org. For those who have not already joined our Living One course, you are still welcome to do so. Plenty of time left in this series. Please go to our website to learn more or to enroll, or you can contact us at contact@kurulos.org. If you'd like to deepen your practice and experience, please join us in exploring meditative practice at Vital Breath for Earth, which happens every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific time, so just 20 minutes from now. Once again, thank you everyone for sharing your time with us. From all of us here at Kurulos, we really appreciate you being here.